Шановні журналісти, вітання. Ми продовжуємо робочий день. І зараз будемо говорити на тему нові подробиці у справі Надії Савченко. Нашими спікерами будуть Ілля Новіков, адвокат Надії Савченко, та Віра Савченко, сестра Надії Савченко. Колеги, прошу до слова.
Good afternoon. I will be speaking Russian, but I do understand Ukrainian. You can ask any questions in any language. Thank you for agreeing to come here today and listen to our statement. While I was flying here, we received a piece of news which I was desperate to wait for. Maybe within the next 24 hours there will be some positive change in Savchenko's case, which is now in the competence of the General Prosecutor's Office of Ukraine, of Russia. If this happens, then maybe tomorrow or this night we will have another occasion to discuss it. Now we have plenty of news. You know that on the 30th of July, this Thursday, in Donetsk of Rostov region, there will be preliminary hearing on Savchenko case. The accusation is killing of 2 and more persons because of the national differences, also attempt on life of 2 and more persons, and also illegal crossing of Russian border. Last week, she was delivered to a detention facility in Novikov, which is next to Rostov-na-Donu. It's about 2.5 hours drive to Donetsk from there. We have not seen her there. My colleagues Fegin and Polozov are going to Novikov today to try to see her. We do not expect that they will allow us to see her before the court sitting, but we will see her during the court sitting. Now, the information we get from Ella Panfil about the Russian ombudsman is that Nadya feels well and conditions are satisfactory. We cannot confirm or negate it, but the information on how she was delivered to Novikov, how she was treated while we did not have any contact with her, we hope that we can give this information to you tomorrow. The main piece of news I would like to deliver now, to announce now, that before the court proceedings start, both the defense and the prosecution come to the court proceedings with their evidence base. And from the point of view of the prosecution, we had no chance to discuss, to talk since the previous court sitting. The first important piece of news. I believe that you know that starting from last December, the main evidence of the defense and what the position of defense is based on is telephone billing of 2 phone numbers of Nadezhda. First phone number at 10:44 was in the center of Lugansk, and the second one at 11:04 was where the next 6 days she was held by militants at Oboronna Street in the building of the former regional military recruitment office. We gave that information in December, but then parallel to that, same information, same technical data was given to Ukrainian side, to Ukrainian General Prosecution Office, to Russian General Prosecution, and basically they never doubted the figures which are in this data that security service received from mobile service providers, and to doubt or to negate the position of the defense that Savchenko has 100% alibi. I would like to remind you that the shelling took place at 11:40. If at 10 or even 11 she was captured in captivity, that ruins the Russian version related to killing of Korneliuk Voloshin. So the data is not doubted, but when looking at the materials of the case and then the end of the June this year, we saw some expert analysis which was conducted by Russian experts on cellular mobile communication, and according to that, the billing of Nadya is not the evidence to her alibi, because the nearest to the tower of mobile communication was ruined, and that is true. And according to the theory of Russian experts, that could lead to the theory that the phone could be connected to a tower in Lugansk, and the maximum distance is 35 kilometers. So technically, theoretically, it is possible that even though the phone was connected to the tower which is in the center of Lugansk, but the subscriber was 5 kilometers away from there, near the settlement where Nadezhda could have been correcting the fire. We had little time to process this information, to look at it, to examine it. We finished working with these materials on the 2nd of July, and starting from then, we were trying to clarify what's happening with billing and what we can oppose to this expert point of view of Russian investigators. I have a news that Ukrainian experts, Ukrainian specialists, the workers of 2 mobile operators of Ukraine this week completed the preparation of the opinion, analyzing the Russian expert opinion, and they negated completely the previous version that the billing really shows the alibi is confirmed. We explained why this point of view of the experts that Russian prosecution will use is not really true. I cannot give you the opinion in a paper format. We are planning to publish it only after the court sitting, after the decision will be made by court whether the court appoints the new expert analysis because of that or not. And we forecast that all the issues related to this sphere of billing, the court will take the decision to reject. They will not allow us to use this data in the court. If they allow us to use it, they will not appoint a new expert analysis. They will say that the opinion of Russian experts is more convincing than of Ukrainian, but our experts have such reliable evidence as telephone billing, which is used by any specialist in any point of in the world. And if Russian court gives accusation ruling to Savchenko, then we can use the experts outside of Ukraine who will explain why this sentence is not just, and the earliest after the court sittings, which will take place on Thursday at 11 in the morning, or the latest, it's when it will be discussed during the court sitting. As to the time frame of the court sitting, we don't have any reliable information on that. We would like to request a week of interval between the preliminary hearings and the main part of the court sittings. That is the standard time frame for Russia, but we have forecast that the court will not give us this interval, and they can start the main part of the hearings on Friday. We have not seen Nadezhda for 2 weeks. We could not discuss the latest news with her. We cannot show her the documents that I will bring from Kiev. But we are ready that this may happen, and that the court will hurry up and will be limiting the defense in time and in how we can use our data. The next big news is
In the case, there is a new proof of alibi of Savchenko, and we didn't have it at the beginning. And since January, we suspected that there could be such some evidence. It's about video recording, which was attached to the case. It was, and when they questioned Yugorovsky, that person was fighting on the side of LNR. He participated in that battle when Nadia was got into prison on the 17th of, and he was doing video recording. That video recording, he cut and put on YouTube, and you saw that when if you followed events. And that very short video, about 11 seconds, when Nadia showed around the militants, and there was a yellow band on her eyes. That's from those video files of Vigorovsky. We thought that's his nickname, but it was a real name. He's from Ukhta. He came to Ukraine to fight as a volunteer, and separatists appointed him a commandant or mayor of Lutugino, and he's holding that position, as far as I know. He was questioned by Russian investigators, and he told that she got into the prison after 1 o'clock. Since the position that she got into prison not later than 11 o'clock, and that completely contradicts our opinion, and the investigation took that video from him, and very quickly they gave a conclusion that according to those video, it's impossible to identify when she got into prison, because timer on the camera was not working properly, and that these are just different video files, and the time 11 on the 16th of June in the evening, and operators, everybody says it was everything in the morning on the 17th. So there is video recording, which doesn't prove or doesn't contradict the version of the accusation. That was the situation at the end of the investigation last week. We received expertise of video audio expertise. We will receive it again. Expertise were then sent to forensics study center in Kiev. Forensics, and according to which the first all those files they as an amateur, without any changing the structure of they changed the time. Non-professional people cannot. It doesn't exactly what is in the structure of the file. Cameras can preserve that data in digital, and experts found that they were changed, replaced. It doesn't help to identify time, because you can always say the time of the camera was not working properly, but allows which file was recorded after which, and it has about 30 files, and they go one by one. They're numbered, and if you know the data, metadata about the file, you can know the file number 5 was recorded 15 minutes after, and then after file 1. It gives us some kind or one big movie with cut out parts between files. Because of that, Ukrainian experts have found out that on one of the frame where you see sun and the shadow from an object, by the angle of the you can define the time, and by comparing the time of recording every file, you can easily tell that at the moment when which is found by time, when you put it on that table of files, it gives that information. Nadya was imprisoned by 10:30, so defense has a double alibi or support of the alibi, not only from the point of view of information provided by Ukrainian special services, but also from the point of view of those files provided by the country which accusation, which we will mention all of that in the court. We would like that media and those representatives of European structures and European countries, and that Ministry of Foreign Affairs invited to observe and to observe this process, to pay attention to the process, because that data should be followed, should be by the time when the time will go to write a sentence. Nobody, all those who observe the process, for them not to have any doubt that Nadia Savchenko has nothing to do with what she is accused and the death of 2 Russian journalists. That's the main news. This week we will publish, maybe even today, the whole text of accusation for everybody to read. And we will plan to publish all volumes, all materials of this case. Unfortunately, there is it's difficult because as lawyers who abide the law, we have to delete all the addresses, all the phone numbers of all who are present there, and it takes a lot of time, and all the materials include video recordings and expertise, and all technical data will be not later than on the first day of the court. Thank you. Thank you. If there is any question, or maybe Vera would like to add something. Dear journalist, if there is any question, please. Let me explain. Thank you. The accusation to Nadezhda was based on the death of these 2 Russian journalists, Korniuk and Voloshin. In Russian legislation, there is such a law. Not all international organizations recognize it correctly, but in many legislations of other countries, that if a crime was committed outside of the country, but towards that person, that the country has a jurisdiction. Not only Voloshin, some other militants that died, but that information was taken out. Those people are not in the materials of the case, but and there is and it was an accusation since May this year. That fact that at the moment when Korniuk and Voloshin died, on the side of the road and near the crossroad where they were, there were several refugees, local people from Middle East and other villages who fleeing from the battle. Russian investigators made the accusation in this, the Savchenko artilleryman. They wanted to kill all those people, and the goal is not citing not only journalists but also at all people understand the civilians, but they got into journalists, but they didn't hit other people. And those 6 people who were in Russia as refugees, they are recognized as victims. And the 7th one, operator Denisov, who at the moment when Korniuk and Voloshin died, he was not under fire. And if you saw that video of the place of explosion, very interesting picture. When the operator was shooting, he was sitting under the armed vehicle 100 meters away. Denisov recorded that, and the Russian investigation says that they were aiming also at Denisov, but they didn't hit him. That's why there was. He is also one of those victims. At our opinion, that new accusation has only one goal: to create the as if these more crimes were committed by Nadia Savchenko. Because the shelling was one of the same, and ideal coincidence, and so there is no defense. We are not planning that alibi that covers that she has not participated in the main shelling, excludes that she was threatening those people, or new people. That's why, in fact, we have this new accusation, and it's split into as 2 consequences. It's split in potentially from 20 to 25 years of sentence, and together maximum 25 years she can be sentenced. And that was announced by Russian investigation committee. Speaker of the Speaker Markin of that committee, he announced that number, and coming out of previous experience of other cases and how investigation committee was announcing them, we suggest we suspect that the prosecution will ask for that sentence in the end, and probably the court will give that sentence. I'll speak about this. In theory, I'm not supposed to do that, but this is a political case in Russia. Political cases in Russia, unfortunately, very predictable. That's why in our work we cannot afford to be light-minded to think that the court will take into consideration our evidence, and the sentence is probably read and it is approved. It will be maximally tough, and there will be maximum sentence, and the only way really to liberate Nadya from prison and to bring her back to the motherland is maximal demonstration, convincing demonstration for those who take decisions, for decision makers. First of all, for European politicians on the first level, Angela Merkel, who are guarantees according to normal and agreements for administration of the US, to show that there is no basis and that this sentence is biased, and those politicians who are in dialogue with Russian politicians, they should include the issue of liberation of Savchenko as a priority in any round in any negotiations about Russia. If we succeed to do that, and that it doesn't matter what kind of number will be in the sentence, pressure on the leadership of Russia sooner or later, I hope early, that it gives a hope that she will be liberated. 5 or 20 years. It doesn't matter. She wants a jury to be there. They refused. They refused to have a jury, and that's after the sentence. We will speak to the Constitutional Court of Russia, because in Russia there is a norm according to which women at some accusations, and our accusation belongs to that they don't have the right of a jury. They should be considered in district courts, not regional courts, because there is no life sentence for them. Because there is no threat of life sentence, her request to have a jury was declined, and to appeal it, you can appeal it only in the Constitutional Court. The jury is less controlled, is less under control of by investigation, and they can cancel the sentence, and it's 15-20% they justify, and professional judges will never justify, especially in such cases. But there is such a law, it works, and to argue different, you can argue only in the Constitutional Court. So there will be no jury. Why did they kidnapped in Ukraine, transported her to other country? Which right Russia has? Russia has no right to do that, but this is my opinion. And my opinion is not the guidance for Russian investigation and prosecution.
Dmitry Kiselyov, he is saying such a nonsense that people call me from Moscow. They tell us that Nadya killed 40 children in the kindergarten and all people who worked in the kindergarten. So they are lying. Why did he receive the order? For lying? I cannot tell you anything. You are absolutely right. We need to do what we can. I do not exclude that there will be a new accusation, like with Khodorkovsky case. The second sentence, Mikhail Khodorkovsky received 6 years after the first one. We do not know what will happen next. We know what to do now. We have an understanding what we need to strive for. We need to strive for, if the court is not honest, not just, then we will give them the opportunity to discredit themselves. We are not accusing the court in anything, but if they ignore the evidence that we bring, then they will dig a hole for themselves. That is maximum we can do, we Russian lawyers. I cannot promise you anything more. The situation is bad. It was bad from the very beginning. We don't have a magical stick. We have only some lucky circumstances, and we can objectively prove the innocence of Nadia Savchenko. There are no laws in that country. We know about these lies. We've known about that for 70 years. I would like to add that the committee that was created to support Nadia Savchenko, that was created by European parliamentarians, I initiated that, and the representatives of students of Ukraine and France, French politicians reacted actively, European parliamentarians, they take visas to Russia. They are asking about when the court sitting will take place, when to go. And foreign mass media, your colleagues are also very much interested in that. Lithuania, France are two active countries, so I would like to encourage that our people are not forgotten by Western politicians and Western mass media. And thank you for the attention to that. If there are any other questions from journalists. You mentioned that the sentence is basically written, but there's information from the prosecutor office of Ukraine that can influence. Can you tell how can this information influence? And the second question about Nikolai Karpyuk. Is there any news? Is he alive? The first question. The information that we can inform, and that the General Prosecutor's Office of Ukraine can influence. They will not maybe influence the sentence, but they will influence how the sentence is perceived in the world. They have the information that they might share within the next 24 hours. As to Karpyuk case, Nadezhda asked me to work on that case. She follows what's happening with other Ukrainians who are persecuted in Russia. Nikolai Karpyuk and Stanislav Kulik are in the same case. They are in the list of Ukrainian Foreign Affairs Ministry as people who are persecuted because of political reason. The family received just 2 letters from him, the 3 lawyers, including myself, that were invited by the wife. Elena Karpyuk failed to meet with him. 3 times I went from Moscow to Vladikavkaz, where he's detained, and they rejected me to go there. They said that first the lawyer has to receive the permit from the investigator, and you cannot meet the investigator because the investigator is always on a business trip, and neither me nor any one of my colleagues could see him. I recently, just last week, received a letter signed by the investigator that Karpyuk refuses from our services. His interests will be presented by lawyers that are appointed, and there are no contacts with these lawyers now. A new lawyer is trying to enter the case, Pavel Zaykin from Nizhny Novgorod. We coordinate our efforts. I give him information that I have. I share all the documents that I accumulated. Maybe because Nikolai Karpyuk case is a top priority in the European Court for Human Rights, maybe in the next half a year we will get the intermediary decision of the Human Rights Court. We have no guarantee that we will see Karpyuk before the court. So Russia is trying this tactic of insulation of the accused person from relatives and from lawyers. That is what they failed to do with Nadezhda Savchenko. But they failed, or they didn't have time to not to allow us to elect Nadezhda Savchenko the member of parliament, and so now we have no information about what's happening with his case. Thank you for being interested in that. That is as important case as the case of Nadia Savchenko. Nadia submitted the request to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs about what's happening with other people, and tomorrow my colleagues will bring her the answer that they received from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, signed by Pavlo Klimkin. But basically, even if she stays in prison for the next 2 months, she will be coordinating all the work on defending Ukrainians in Russia.
You described, you gave us a pessimistic, realistic scenario. So do you have a B plan, more optimistic how it can happen? What other international pressure can be done in the case of Nadia Savchenko, in case the West supports it? We count on informal pressure. We know that with Khodorkovsky, the decision at the request of Angela Merkel to Putin, I believe, ready to believe, that Putin will agree with such communication, which means that he is asked about something, then at negotiations is of State Secretary, the U.S. Secretary, they touched the issue of Savchenko. They gave the point of view of they have it since the Minsk agreement that first of all there should be a co-decision, and then we'll see. And that point of view, that pause, the majority of Western politicians agreed to that, and because the court is a respected institution in the US and in Europe, and for them, let court decide, and this is quite natural. And even if they understand that such position is just postponement and abuse from Russia, and they don't believe it's correct to break through with force. They agreed that there will be court process, court trial, and then next round of negotiation will be after that court. So I believe that after the court trial, and that issue will be raised on informal level, and after Putin shows to his voters on TV that his justice is correct, his investigators got the killer, and then he will agree to some compromise. Because then further value or use of Savchenko in Russian prisons, Russia cannot get anything else. As to other forms of pressure, we should not forget that since January 2015, Savchenko is a delegate to PASE, and that status gives her an absolute immunity from arrest in Russia and in persecution in Russia. Russia was obliged, since the moment when Savchenko got that status, to keep her further in the prison, they had to request to the Parliamentary Assembly to cancel that immunity, and the Parliamentary Assembly could do that, because such a request is not sent until now, and we are going to ask to send such a request from, not because if the court refuses to do that, it means that it's not ready to follow the international law. The Parliamentary Assembly has a hard opinion that Russia violates his obligations as to immunity of those who work in the structures, in European structures, and we see that at present all reaction of the structures came down to the point when the Russian delegation doesn't have a right of a vote. That was done. That's a step. That's an important step, but this is not that step which can change anything in the tool of making decisions in Russia. That's why we are waiting that right away after the sentence, maybe even before the appeal and before it comes into force, because according to Russian law, the sentence is not legal in force until there is an appeal, and that will happen in September. in October. We expect that Parliamentary Assembly will ask Russian leadership to comply with the procedure and will provide some clear conclusions about further action of European structures if that request will be ignored again. What kind of reaction can it be? I will not prognose. I'm a lawyer, not a politician. That's why I have nothing to say about this. But we hope that there will be a request. Thank you. We have one more question. Several hours ago, General Prosecutor Shogun told that tomorrow they will give a suspension to all those who in the case of Savchenko. Is it something you mean? What will it give to you, to the case, if they give those suspicions and how many people are, and there will be residents of citizens of Ukraine and Russia. How many of such people, and what will it give to the case? I won't comment it. I will not confirm, not denounce, because I personally was asked not to speak about that information that I have. So let's wait until the official statement about this. Let's finish with this. I will comment that news if it takes place, if there will be suspicion, but I wouldn't like her to speak about that so far. You told that during 2 weeks you have not seen Nadiya. Anybody called her? Did you talk to her? Are you sure that she is in Novikov? Because recently there was a lot of information that she disappeared. Are you sure that she's fine? And why did they give such information? What they were hiding in her real place? I'll start. Our information, which we received as to disappearance, it's quite legal.
And that's quite, it's according to Russia, when the person is taken from one department to another, the person disappears. They do not have to inform relatives or lawyers where they take the person. And in the worst cases, like it was in Razvazhaev case, who was kidnapped from Kiev and taken to Russia, just like Nadezhda. So this period of this in uncertain situation when he was moved from one place to another, this period lasted for months. When the person is transported, he cannot call, write, or another way to inform relatives or lawyers. And from the moment when I arrived on Friday, when I learned that Nadezhda is not there, since that moment she disappeared. Now all the attempts to find out where she is, that was done by Vira, and Vira will explain how we got this information, why we trusted on mistrust. As to where Nadia is, when we mass media started talking about that, then Russia reacted, and she calls me personally late at night, at 11 o'clock at night. She sends requests, and they eventually told me that yes, really, that's Rostov, detention facility number 3, Novocherkassk. There's a cell for her with the shower, with everything. Then about the health, she needed some ointment for legs. I can just guess what it was. Nadia has some mild trauma, and when it's so hot, it hurts. And then at night, I receive SMS from Panfilov. I knew that because she was saying that she's in Khabarov, she's far away, she cannot tell exactly where she is. But SMS came that Nadia requested to say that everything is fine. She's in Rostov. Maybe these are those who were traveling with her, and someone had access to mobile phone. That's all communication we have. Maybe even tomorrow morning we will see, we will learn, we will see her, and we will give you all the news about what's with her. Any questions from journalists? If not, then thank you very much. Thank you, Ilya. Thank you, Vira. Thank you. Good luck to you. Our working days.